السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك وزد على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Respected Dean of Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman, College of Islamic Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences, Professor Dr. Hafiz Zakaria, our guest of honor for today's session, Sayyid Muhammad Makhdoom, the chairman of Zahra Foundation, who came all the way from Kerala to attend and witness our closing ceremony today. Jazakumullahu khairan. Respected deputy deans, head of the departments, academic staffs, students, and most importantly, our registered participants of this SISCO Certified Course on Visionary Leadership and Community Engagement. First of all, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to witness this momentous occasion. We started in January 6, 5 months back in the beginning of this year, to start a program, a certificate, giving a certified course for the students. Rather than having multiple sessions, we wanted to have a program which has coordinated to achieve a vision, to achieve a goal for helping our students. Because the SISCO established to work with the students like a win-win situation. SISCO's legacy of a scholar from India named Sayyid Ismail Shihabudheen rahimahullah. How can his tafsir can be make a good outreach to the world through utilizing the expertise and experience and scholarship of our IIUM professors. And also how the Zahra Foundation or SISCO can help our students to achieve their goals. These both goals needs to be fulfilled and achieved. That is the main mission of organizing this certified program. And first and foremost, I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to the students. MashaAllah, it's not easy because it is overwhelmingly busy with their own student works, thesis, and other things, sometimes family. In the journey, they managed to attend these 12 sessions. Together, we made assessments like exam, quiz, then also a video presentation. So we started the journey with the 70 participants, and when we are reaching to the destination landing, we have 34 students, and one participant is from other university who also wanted to benefit from this course. So without further ado, I would like to take this moment also to remember our visionaries, whose vision we are now living through or living by, or their vision, intellectual legacy is shaping the journey of this university and our students. Especially now we are in the Professor Muhammad Kamal Hassan Library Auditorium. This concept became the seed of this university. And Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman, he said our university is prefixed with his name. His vision and mission are actually we are fulfilling through our academic and non-academic activities. And also, I would like to remember Sayyid Ismail Shihabudheen rahimahullah from Kerala, whose vision became the seed of Sayyid Ismail Shihabudheen Council for Visionary Leadership, SISCO, and also he devoted his whole life for the empowerment of Muslim community back in India. Coming to today's session, alhamdulillah, we have a historian and we have a scholar with a wide range of experience in the administrative roles. In the university setting, sometimes professors, we have scholars, they maybe through and through focus on their scholarship building. But Prof. Hafiz Zakaria has a balance between the scholarship and activism of this kind of administrative roles. And today's session is named Navigating the Uncharted Lessons from a University's Response to the Crisis. In this hall, we have leaders, administrators, scholars, and also the future leaders. So we should be in the full awareness, the preparation or the readiness of how should we lead. I mean, because the leadership is a, sometimes people call head of department, but we say in between headache of, because it's a huge pain there. So you need to be on a ready mode to see the unprecedented things, the predictable thing in the office is unpredictability of the office. So how to overcome the crisis, how to navigate these things is the today's main topic of the discussion. So maybe I'll begin with the first question, Prof. Please tell us what a crisis in higher education means. Give maybe perhaps with some examples. In the recent times, university or higher education faced a crisis and how it impacts the higher education or that institution.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much, Associate Professor Dr. Syed Mohsin, who is leading SISCO as well as moderating the session, and Al-Fazil, the Honorable Syed Mahtoum, you come all the way from Kerala, thank you so much. And the Honorable colleagues, I should not name you, but all of you, I appreciate your presence here. And also we have, most importantly, the registered participant. And unregistered also we should welcome, right? Alhamdulillah. And Dr. Syed Mohsin have already introduced me, so there is no surprise, right? So, in fact, sometime among the deputy vice chancellors, they asked me, what is your major? I told them history. I said, no, it cannot be history, right? Then what it should be, I asked them. Or maybe something else, right? So whatever that is, looks is deceiving. And as far as training is concerned, I'm not an expert, a specialist in organizational communication, leadership, or management, right? So it just so happened that some of the responsibility entrusted upon me, I have basically navigated these responsibilities. Let us begin in order to understand. Let us begin what is crisis, right? Based on textbook definition, based on journal article, a crisis is mostly an abrupt and unexpected negative change, creating a critical, dangerous, and unstable situation, whether for individual, for department, for the kuliah, for an institution, or for the community. That is a very simple definition, right? And as I mentioned, that more importantly, if you look at some example, not all example, maybe I'll give you 3 example, because the mundane, what Dr. Syed Mohsin mentioned, the mundane is already headache, right? What about the uncharted, something that we don't know? This is about the test of leadership, right? Test of leadership. At the end of the day, if you are confronted with something that is not there in the blueprint, you should be able to respond to it accordingly. Is it there in the blueprint or is not there in the blueprint? It doesn't matter, right? That's why Allah entrusted as Khalifa. And in 2023, there is a public university in the US, West Virginia University. It faced a huge financial crisis, about 45 US dollar, 45 million USD budget deficit. As a result of that deficit, you know how to balance the budget, right? To balance the budget, the easy thing is actually to remove. I'm looking at lecturers here. To remove lecturers. In fact, 143 lecturers were terminated. And also to close some of the program. So normally what program? Normally they look at humanities and liberal art. World languages program, whether it is Spanish, whether it is Arabic, and other program were closed. And that's what happened in the University of West Virginia in 2023. So definitely it created a crisis. Right? Imagine if we have. Definitely Malaysia also faced crisis, but we do not resort to such an approach, right? And another example is yeah, this is example that is probably that we can relate as an administrator. Let's say if there is, na'uzubillah, let's say academic integrity issue. Lecturers, for example, committed or allegedly plagiarized thesis, for example. This is the age. You cannot run away, right? Or people say that you can hide or you can run, but you cannot hide. But during this day, you cannot run away. Definitely integrity matters, right? If there is plagiarism or you don't portray the subject according to what it is supposed to be, the rigor and academic standard, that is also an issue. So as a result, what happened? The public is going to ask the university, ask the kuliah. So what has the kuliah done, for example? That is also is an example of a crisis. And normally university, definitely the internal process will happen. But more importantly, the public want an immediate answer, right? Yeah, they want an answer in the form of a statement from the corporate communication. What has the university done? This is not going to be easy because there is always two sides of the divide, right? That is another example. And how university responded to the crisis is important. And the third one, this is the most pervasive one, the one that will be basically, my lecture today is based on my limited experience in managing COVID-19. COVID-19 is an example of the most pervasive, right, crisis that we have seen, right? As a result of COVID-19, there are many things. We have people say previously the new norm, right? And a lot of new norm remain here today, right? For COVID-19, the way we do things, the way we do meeting, the way we conduct class, and even in terms of the way we offer programs. So that is another example that have affected billions of students around the world. That is COVID-19, and we talk about, these are the three examples of crisis, meaning that crisis does not often happen, right? So whatever that we encounter, say for example, unhappiness among students in the department, come and see Dr. Syed Mohsin, is that a crisis? Yeah, we can say that it is a minor crisis, but not really crisis according to that definition. That is the mundane, right? And all staff who is not happy, the promotion, for example, that is not crisis, that is the regular thing. And normally we know how to handle it because why? Because we have the previous experience, the precedent, for example, right? But with crisis, most of the time, we cannot go back to the blueprint to see what is the answer to this question, right? That is as a start.
Jazakallah khair, Prof, for helping us understand the nature of crisis in the higher education institution. Perhaps that building on that foundation, I would like to ask from this theory to the practice. I mean, can you take us back to in discharging your academic responsibilities, you faced a challenge, a crisis. Maybe in the right, as you mentioned, the COVID-19. Can you take us back to the day one? The problem happened when the doors closed, the leaders came to the boardroom. What was the instinct or assumption you had, and how the department or organization responded to that crisis?
Looking back, right, after the event happened, COVID-19, 2019, 2020, right, in terms of managing in Malaysia 2020. But looking back, I have to basically, they say that flashback, right? All these things come together after it is over. And I was on secondment, right, for 3 years. So that's why I have to be careful what to say, what not to say. Hopefully, because there is no teleprompter, right, to advise me what to say and what not to say, right? I was on secondment for 3 years. And the day when I received the official letter from the Ministry of Higher Education that I was appointed as Deputy Vice Chancellor around, morning or afternoon. That evening, just before Maghrib, my youngest daughter, who was about 10 to 11 months during that time, was bitten by a snake, right? So, my appointment as Deputy Vice Chancellor, is it blessing or curse, right? So at that point of time, something that matters is actually about the life of my youngest daughter. And do you think that I am a snake man, have the courage to tackle the snake? I don't think so, right? So what happened is that the snake bite her and still clinging on her hand, and I have to find all the courage, right, to grab the snake and then take it out. So that is the story, yeah, right? And looking back, I possibly, this is a metaphor that maybe going to take this responsibility. Maybe people will say that it is a walk on the beach because literally the campus is actually near the ocean, right? And it is not actually, right? And yeah, and I should mention some, but without going into the detail. And so I have to fix this way, right? And when you work in organization, definitely in IIUM and elsewhere, people are nice everywhere, right? But the only thing is comfort zone. There are people that you know, there are people that you don't know in organization. When you go and work in external organization, you don't know people over there, right? And the issue of your own perception or misperception of the people matters also, right? So when I reported for duty in the university was in turmoil during that time, that particular university, because of the political crisis and the proposal to merge the university. I should not name the university here, but you understand, right? To merge the university, which went against the sentiment of the majority of the university that I'm going to go to, right? And it created a lot of problem. And then just before, I think 1 month or a few weeks before I went there was student protests in the university. And one of the things is actually about the proposed merger, right? And to make it, I don't know, interesting or uninteresting, when I reported for duty, the Vice Chancellor was suspended, right? And I am the one person who came to campus, and I don't know when the Vice Chancellor was suspended, right? So I don't know about, that is the good thing when you don't know a lot of things that is going on campus. So, you don't pay attention to it, right? Because during the first month, actually, I was commuting. My family is still here in Gombak. And I don't pay attention. I don't know people. So that is good, right? Because if I know, listening to rumor mill, possibly they say, oh, this is the guy. This is the guy who removed us, make the suspension happen, right? Possibly that was in the mind or the thinking of the people during that time. You better be careful with this guy, right? So, everything that you see was possibly that was the misperception or perception, but I did not have time to pay attention to that because I don't know people. I'm here, I was there to work with people. I believe that majority of people are nice people. But, what about perception or misperception? I think that time will cure and they will understand, they will know. And I was surprised as well. And when I report for duty, it was the covering or the acting Vice Chancellor. So, meaning that it is like walking on fire. So possibly when I reflect, I think that, human being, no matter how great you are, actually you rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't really know what is facing you. Because you ask me, do I really want to go there? Of course, I don't want to go there. Why? Because you have seen, right? The student demonstration, the proposed merger, and many other things, right? And then to make matter worse, the suspension, obviously, these are part of the local politics, right? Among these people, right? And somehow, if I go there, I will be rightly or wrongly implicated, or maybe I have a part, I have played some role or something like that. So that in the beginning, since the beginning, I think that it is not going to be easy. I think that I reported for duty in the month of December. Possibly that was the perception of people. And COVID-19, I remember happened officially in terms of the, let's say, 16th of March, right? As far as the operation of the command center at UMT. So people, maybe all this while they were thinking that possibly some special branch who is going to report to the KPT that was, and then suddenly COVID-19 happened. And when COVID-19 happened, definitely we were not prepared, right? And definitely in terms of strategic planning, you can have all the plan that you have in the world, right? And there are many components of leadership, but definitely one component is crisis. But I think that if you attend, before you become deputy vice chancellor or vice chancellor, you have to attend courses on leadership organized by the National Academy of Leadership, ACAP. And I think that so far, it is very rare for leaders or would-be leaders of the university to be exposed to crisis leadership, right? So that's why later on when ACAP interviewed me, I say that you need to introduce crisis. I think introducing is one thing, but facing it. So even when we have this crisis, we have what we have here is OSIP. Back there is called the Office of Transformation, Planning and Risk. They see that in our strategic planning, we have many elements, and there is that element of what we call crisis. But maybe that is only in the imagination, right? Maybe someday it will happen, but they don't really know exactly how it is going to happen. Meaning that, that's why I say that uncharted, unnavigated. Because why? Because it is there. How to respond to it, manual is not going to tell you, right? So there is in the beginning, people were clueless. If you can share the pictures in the first meeting in the command center, if you look at the picture, the good thing is that this picture was taken without us realizing it, right? And then you can tell, how prepared or unprepared were we when you look at, okay, this is the first time I also did not know that they took picture, right? And then, did I smile? I don't think so, right? And then next one, right? Yeah, these are the actual picture taken. They did not realize. So meaning that they was so that serious. Right? They don't know what to do. And what happened is that when there is no manual that will tell you what is the basic principle, you refer to Islam, Allah tells us that have shura among yourself, right? That's what we do actually. When we have command center, we invite everyone representing the various sectors in university, from the academic office, from the corporate communication, from strategic, definitely from security, from health center, security, everyone was represented, right? We literally crack our head, think, how do we solve this problem? Because why? Unlike, dealing with students who are not happy with the grade, more or less we know, right? But this time around, the issues actually are not there in the manual. How are we going to solve it? What happened? That's why the phase was so serious, because we have to think and then try to find solution to the problem. I think that is the brief answer of, human being. In the face of crisis, we were so vulnerable, we were so helpless.
Jazakallah khaira for the sharing of this first-hand experience of how the leaders respond to when they are confronted with the uncertainty. So this brings me to the next question. Are there any difference between managing the faculties or universities during the regular times, normal times, versus the crisis time?
As you mentioned earlier, the Another name for head is headache. Right? Headache is part of life. If you don't want to don't want to have headache, transfer to another life, right? So Allah yarham, right? Definitely, this is part of life, isn't it? Except during regular time, the kind of issue that we face, teaching and learning, research, community engagement, student and alumni relation, human resources issues, people, let's say, who think that they need to get a better pay. These are the kind of thing that we handle. Definitely headache is always there, right? Especially managing a big kuliah like ours. So it's already there. What is the difference? Is actually previously we always have the previous minutes, right? Refer to the previous minutes, right? What is the precedent? So that will guide us. And more or less, you talk to the elders, right? Okay, Prof. Aziz, how did you solve this problem previously? Prof. Aziz said that this is easy. Or he has become Malay, he said, this is kacang. Right? Prof. Aziz kata, this is because why? Because of based on the previous cases, right? But what is the difference with the COVID-19 is totally new, right? Say, for example, learning. It seems simple, right? Because, I was not in IIUM. I think the situation was the same, right? Basically, even those who are on campus, they are not allowed to come to classroom. So as a result, learning has to be done online, right? Isn't it? But previously, definitely more, right? Massive open online course is already there. But before COVID-19, I don't think that people pay too much attention on it, right? But COVID-19, after it happened, then we started to understand there are many issues. For example, when we organize online classes, then we realize the issue with reliability or unreliability of Wi-Fi, for example. Some people who are on campus, even on campus, we know, right? In some mahalah, the Wi-Fi connection is bad. What about our brothers and sisters who are in remote area? I should not name the place, otherwise people say, how come you say that my place is remote, right? I can name my kampung in Kedah, right? Alor Gonchar, that's remote, right? There's no connection. How are we going to settle this issue, right? Previously, it was easy, right? Look at the previous minute is not there, right? So we have to think. And how do we solve the problem? Previously, we have problem. We try to think at our own level. Now, if you want to settle the issue of, let's say, connectivity, what you need to do is you need to engage with Kementerian Luar Bandar, rural development, to check. Is there any, let's say, local library that have computers to ensure that learning? So I remember that during this time, the COVID, there are stories of a student in Sabah who were actually following the class on tree, right? Because why? We have a connection issue. So this is the new problem that we don't have. In order to solve this problem, we cannot work on our own, right? We need to contact the various agency in order to solve. And in fact, you think that you come up with a new solution, actually, it's good that you have online. But do you solve the problem? You do not solve the problem. Because why? There are many other issues. What do you mean by many other issues? I think that I have real life example here that, definitely we say that to solve this problem, we have online class. But you have to ask how many devices a person have in a family, for example. And where do they stay, for example. If they stay in a cramped housing area, for example, and what about their parents, for example? If their parents have, let's say, 1-year-old, 2-year-old sister or brothers, who is looking after them? If it is a broken family, so that's what happened is that during COVID-19, we went to the ground and checked. And then one of the family actually have this problem that the father and mother separated. And then the student actually, when they were following class, actually cuddling the little sister, right? And also they have to wait and take turn. After this, another brother has to follow class online. These are the kind of thing. That's why in order to solve this problem, it requires new way of doing things. Not only universities, but also with other agency from Ministry of Higher Education. So that's why the response to this, it is not enough. You say that Almarhum Prof. Aris used to say armchair anthropologist, just sitting down on chair and then imagining things. Right? You have to go down and see. And in fact, during COVID-19, we went and see and met with this particular sister whose parents were separated and they have to look after. So that's why you need to understand. You cannot simply say that I expect everyone to be in class on time, right? You need to understand. You need to dive deeper in order, because I think that I don't really know how open are people to reveal the problem, right? I'm not sure about the current generation. I don't know, Z generation, Alpha generation, how open are they? Maybe to criticize, okay, yeah, right. To criticize, I should not do that, right here, right? To criticize online is easy, right? But to tell the actual problem to a stranger, that is very hard, right? Most of them will not be sharing. So these are the kind of thing that we have to tell you that, when we have COVID-19, actually the challenges is a lot and very deep. This is just, I think, on the tip of iceberg. After that, we can dive deeper.
So actually, during the COVID-19, we moved to the online class. As you mentioned, the real problems are, but sometimes it went to the other dimension of, misusing it. The students were asking their mother to be the mic is closed, the camera is closed. Then we were talking to this machine the hours and after it became a huge. I think the psychological state of well-being was seriously affected, especially those who are working in the academia. Okay, Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much for that insightful distinction between the leadership during the regular time and also during the crisis, which both need different types of leadership approaches. The next question is about what did the crisis reveal about the strengths and vulnerabilities of the university, which may remain unnoticed before the crisis?
Let me start with vulnerabilities first. Institutional readiness. As I mentioned, we are blessed to have ACAP, have organized a lot of training, except, the place is quite challenging for us who are in Kuala Lumpur to go there, right? But at the same time, less emphasis on crisis management, right? They have organized, but I think that if you ask, in fact, ACAP has tasked a group of researchers to conduct a study on this, right, in the aftermath or during COVID-19, in terms of, what they call training need analysis. One of the things that I mentioned, actually, we run this, but we don't basically follow any course, right? In terms of institutional readiness, as I mentioned, that candidates, this is during that time, 2020, 2019. I believe that now it has been incorporated because of the impact of COVID-19. So the ACAP also have incorporated. But during that time when it happened, I think that universally in Malaysia, people were not exposed to this, right? So that's why if you look at the pictures, right? So the faces of us in the command center, we were clueless. We were serious, try to find solution for the problem. Because why? You want to check in the blueprint, it is not there in the blueprint. And in the context, I should mention, in the context of Terengganu, I was in Terengganu. The Terengganu does have, I will use Malay first because the name of the committee is in Malay. Later on, Syed Musa will help me to translate in English, right? Because he live in kampung together with Dr. Tengku Muhammad, right? Okay, Jawatan Kuasa Pengurusan Bencana, the Committee for Management of Disaster is there in the university that I went to. Because whatever disaster happened, previously, disaster in Terengganu primarily was flood, right? Come monsoon season, previously November, December, then flood is a major issue. So in terms of the readiness, they already have Jawatan Kuasa Pengurusan Bencana, right? The committee to manage disaster is already there. And more or less they know what to do, right? The composition of the committee members is already there. Except flood, with flood, it is not uncharted, right? It is already there. In Terengganu, it's part of life, right? So they already know how to respond to it and what are the agencies. Some of the agency is called APM, the National Civil Aviation Agency, for example, Police Force, the Ministry of Health, right? You need to communicate. That is already there. If you are in East Coast, that particular committee is already there. But with the difference is that with COVID-19, whatever experience that you have in managing flood, that is not really helpful. But in terms of having that particular special committee of managing disaster, it is already there. What you need to do, you need to upgrade that committee. Instead of dealing with flood, you are dealing with totally new problem. So in terms of vulnerability, is definitely the cluelessness. And also, there are many things that were affected during that time. Definitely today we can say that, we cannot have meeting, we can have meeting online, isn't it? Online meeting. Because why? You can enjoy nasi lemak roti canai while the head is having a headache, right? What are you doing? The head is asking, right? We are doing well, eating, right? Okay, but some committees actually you cannot have online. Say, for example, for better or worse, I think it's better. I was the one throughout the COVID, I was every day on campus, right? Because I was managing the command center. Because if I were at home, I think that I would be more stressful like you, right? And there are some committees you cannot have online. What committee? Tender committee. Committee to evaluate tender, right? Say, for example, if you want to purchase new computer, various company bid for it, and then you have to evaluate what are the specs, right? So that committee you cannot have online. So meaning that it has to convey in face-to-face, right? So I have to go deeper here. Hopefully that my former boss will not be unhappy. Because what happened is that in the university that I was with, the VC was primarily based in KL. So during weekend, we'll go back and meet the family. The VC also based in KL. Of course, I was based in KL as well, right? But I was there. What happened is that after MCO was proclaimed, they could not travel. VC could not travel. DVC could not travel. The only person that was there is Hafiz, right? So Hafiz can save the world, right? So the VC also will contact, okay, these are some of the function of the university. So whatever the emergency committee that is the UMC, right? Whatever decision that has to be made, that was the committee, right? Because they were not allowed to travel, right? Until they lifted the restriction. And including the tender committee, I say that not in this world, right? I don't know anything about tender. I know about tandoori, but not tender, right? But they say that what can we do, right? Because the VC cannot travel, VC cannot travel. You are the only one, right? Okay, I say that, all right. So these are the example, right? The vulnerabilities that some of the things later on after COVID-19, I think that they have more or less, but still, even today, I think that some of the sensitive committee, like tender committee, maybe some members, if they request with good reason, can be online, but other member has to be there because, tender committee is really, really deep, the discussion, in order to evaluate things like that. So meaning that there are a lot of vulnerabilities in terms of training readiness, but the good thing is At the Ministry of Higher Education also, they have what they call Central Disaster Management Committee, Jawatan Kuasa Induk Pengurusan Bencana, Central Disaster Management Committee. The membership comprise of the KPT, Ministry of Higher Education, Ministry of Health, NADMA, you know NADMA, right? The agency that is in charge for disaster, and other agency, police, and the National Security Council are there as well, meaning that KPT also have to navigate Uncharted. I think that what happened is that, during the time of crisis, the command center at the KPT become very central. They have to update the information every 24 hours. Very detailed information, right? Detailed information as in, how many people are there in IIUM, on campus, off campus, how many are positive, how many are quarantined, how many are suspected. That detailed information, any mental health issues, every day we have to update it. And some of the members from the universities, DVC or VC, will be the member of that committee. And at KPT level, it's the same thing. At the national level, they have to, basically, this is what Islam tells us. You face any problem, you don't have any blueprint, you get down together, crack your head, think, and you should be able to find a solution. At KPT level also, they are doing that, and having meeting until midnight in order to find solution to the problem. And what is the good thing? The good thing is that, that's why we need to have crisis, because crisis is blessing in disguise. When we have crisis, we'll forget about, I'm sorry, if the joke is not really, is uncalled for, you can forget about who is your yang tuan besar, right? Was it this Tunku, another Tunku, right? Luckily, only one Tunku today. Right? Because when you have crisis, you don't have the luxury of thinking about all the minute things, about the crisis, about, who should roll and other things. Because why? Your focus is on solving the problem. That's what happened during the time of crisis. That previously, possibly people were thinking whether this person is really part of us or not really part of us. During the time of crisis, people put that aside. Because why? The most important thing is handling the crisis. Sit down together, people from various KCDI, Kuliah Center, department, agency, sit down together in order to solve the problem. And during the good time, you see that, sometimes there is a tendency of people who want to pick and choose what they want to do, what they don't want to do, right? Because why? Maybe in teaching courses also, this course is difficult, let's give to some other people. But during the time of crisis, if you want to be selective, I think that we will not be able to solve problem. For example, the mission of sending the student home for Hari Raya. What happened is that university have to send some university official to go to various parts of the country, Kedah, Perlis, right? If you want to pick and choose, then, you will not be able to solve the problem, right? So what happened during the time of COVID-19, basically people put that aside and everybody helped. And I still have pictures because the mission of sending students home during Idul Fitri took place during the month of Ramadan, right? So the month of Ramadan, anyone was involved. Some of you were involved during COVID-19 operation, for example. So if you want to have iftar or suhoor, where are you going to have it? R&R is not open, right? So basically, if it is iftar, okay. If it is suhoor, you have to bring whatever that you have. And I still have pictures that I did not have it here, that people stop at R&R and then they extend the carpet or not carpet, cover, and then having suhoor there. And that is the kind of sacrifice that people, regardless whether they are from this office or another office, basically sacrifice in order to try and solve the problem. The key thing is here is that they meet regularly to discuss And the operation room has to be, during the peak of the crisis, it has to be 24 hours. Meaning that, what does it mean? It means that we have to take turn, right? So every time there must be someone in the command center, because that's the way it works. The instruction that we receive from the ministry also is like that. When the situation relaxed a little bit, then, it was relaxed. That is the situation. The good thing is that the collaboration and cooperation.
Thank you, Prof. And also, we need to remember the leaders are also human beings. They have family. The death toll around is rising.
Yeah.
And I remember I was interviewed by former rector Tanshri Tanshri during just 1 week ahead of this lockdown, closing the borders. So he asked me the first question. You are from Department of Fiqh and Usul Fiqh. Why some country close the masjid and why some masjids are not open? Why there is no a single fatwa? That was the question.
So you answer?
I answered تغير الفتوى بتغير الزمان والأشخاص.
MashaAllah, that's why you are usuli, Alhamdulillah.
Regarding the problem as Prof rightly mentioned, during the COVID-19, the one blessing, the bond, and not only in the institutional level, the family, there were more even online or offline, they meet, they discuss, and the small problems were ignored. Sometimes some problems can be solved by getting bigger problems. So we don't have time to the beat around the bush and the gossiping and this. We go for the we'll be focused on the major problems. Anyway, it brings us to the next question, which is when this kind of things, we are on a track. We have a daily routine and other things. Suddenly, the big changes are happening. So how the difficult decisions were communicated to the colleagues, and also how the university learned about the building the trust in the leadership and even the colleagues.
Communication matters in organization during the normal time and especially during the time of crisis, right? It is very important. That's why, I only took one introductory course, Introduction to Communication. Prof. Hussein, Yusuf Hussein mentioned the source, the message, the sender, right? The age that we live in, we are so confused, right? Because why there are so many channels, YouTube, this, and then each department want to have. So, that is okay. You should give liberty, the age of liberty. Everybody want to have, right? Fake, you want to have its own, let's say, TikTok, political science, English. But during the time of crisis, of course, you see that all these things are good. But you need to have one source of information that you follow, right? The information need to be centralized to ensure that it is consistent, it is correct, it is rapid, and it takes into account of various factors. So that's why one source of communication is very important, right? Otherwise, you see that one is from a command center, and then we have another one from health center, we have another one from OSAM. That is not the way to handle. So what happened is that during the time of COVID-19, we learned that it is very important. The good thing is that when we have the what we call the disaster management committee, task force or command center, everybody was there, including the corporate communication. And we realized the importance of communication, right? Because managing COVID-19 is like, let's say, academic fantasia, full of drama, right? So you have to follow, you have to anticipate the mental health, for example. But this story is a little bit long. The most difficult speech or communication that I ever delivered took place on the 17th of March 2020. What happened is that on the 16th or 17th, if I'm not mistaken, the Prime Minister have delivered a message to everyone in Malaysia that stay home, do not go anywhere, right? And before that, our university were planning to help students to go home, right? We send them home by a university bus. So on the 16th, students were sent home. And then on the 17th, and also Minister of Higher Education during that time, Dr. Nur Aini, mentioned that like students are not allowed to go home, right? And I contacted our VC. Our VC also said that they are not allowed to go home. I was involved in helping them to go home, planning and all. On the 17th, the night of the 17th, there are hundreds of them converged at the Convocation Square. And as they say it, the bus engines were humming, the tires were ready to roll. The students were there. Can we see pictures at the square there? There are hundreds of them. Their bags were there and they were ready to go home, right? And I was given the most beautiful job in the country to deliver the beautiful speech. What is the speech? Cannot go home, right? Yeah, these are the, right? And the security was so worried. What happened? You tell them, then they don't want to go, they don't want to listen to you. They will cause havoc, right? And they were worried, maybe we need to have barricade or something so that, remember this shirt, right? And that's the way I am, right? I'm dressing the way I am dressing, right? Yeah. And I was called, and that night I was negotiating. I should not tell the boss, hopefully I'm not listening. I actually was in favor of sending students home. I was in discussion with the police. I was in discussion with the Minister of Higher Education. And Minister of Higher Education gives a special, okay, go, but be careful, right? But my boss said that no, right? So my boss said no. But the boss is not there. If the boss is there to say no, okay, but the person who is nice and unnice, that is me, right? Have to say no, right? How do you say no? Can you check any blueprint, right? How to say no? In the face of difficult situation like this, I have to give them speech, right? And the gist of the sea tak boleh balik, right? That's it, right? Cannot go home. And there is no text. So that was the most difficult speech. But whatever you say come from your heart, right? And I told them, I understand. I feel what you are going through. I am with you all the way. In fact, they know that I'm with them all the way. I was the one arranging and everything. But this is the instruction from the minister, the instruction from, I cannot tell my boss, right? So we cannot go home. Why? But you have to explain why you cannot go home. That is the thing. This is not historian job. Why? Right? The why you cannot go home, right? I don't know. I only help. My only recourse is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I say that, in Italy and many other places, they have made the crucial mistake of letting them go. And then after that, many people lost their life. This is the risk that we are facing. Please sacrifice for the greater good. I know that it is hard. It is difficult. But please, in deep of your heart, try to understand. The sacrifice that you make is not easy, but it's going to save life. And we are going to do anything possible to help you. And then, you think that the speech is easy part? No, the speech is not the easy part because the event was live on IG. And then they were asking questions, thick and fast, right? So many questions. No one is there to help me and answer. One question after another, I don't know. I only say from my heart, right? And they were asking, for us, we are living off campus, but no space in Mahala. That is our Mahala, right? They don't call Mahala hostel. So, can you do something to allow us to stay? We say, just tell them the truth, right? That we will try our best to help them. and one after another, and then one another difficult question also come from online. They say that, you see, look outside the gate, right, or the campus, there are students who are taking bus to leave, right? How come you allow them to leave, but inside you don't allow? So who's going to help me? For this, if you know, he could help me, but I only say that, okay, whatever, I did not take course in law, right? I say that, this is a matter of jurisdiction. Whatever happened beyond the gate is not within our jurisdiction. What is inside the campus is our jurisdiction. So we cannot go and chase you, but we will be answerable to ministry what happened inside the campus. So please understand that, right? So I don't know how long was that, right? The question and answer. And then they were asking as if I am Professor Sebetau, the professor who know everything, right? Okay, any other question, right? They were asking, right? And I think that maybe around 11, 12 midnight, it finished. You think that it is over around 2 or 3 a.m. I received phone call from a policeman. Apparently his son or daughter was one of the student, and then he was questioning me. How come you don't allow? Whereas this is the time of everyone want to tell someone else that they know better. They want to flex their muscle. They say that police doesn't have problem. Police allow student to go home. And this policeman was saying, right? I say that, okay, with due respect to you, sir, you are under different ministry, right? Ministry of Domestic Affairs, Kementerian Dalam Negeri. We are under Ministry of Higher Education, right? Our chain of command is from our minister, right? Allah help you during the time of crisis. So that was around 3 a.m., right? So that I learned it the hard way. But the most important thing during the time of crisis is, definitely people always emphasize on the PDF, right? What to say. But, most importantly, you have to be genuine. You have to be assuring to them. And they were asking me so many questions that we say that we have purchased the ticket, right? They were showing me during the question and answer, what will happen to our ticket? Are you going to refund us? I cannot answer because I'm not the treasurer of the university, right? So how are you going to answer? I say that, please keep your ticket with you. I can assure you that we will try our level best. I will talk to the management of the university. Keep this, and then later on we will find a way to refund the ticket. So meaning it's not really I was standing for election or anything, right? So, but I have to keep the promise, right? The ticket was refunded, right? The ticket was refunded, alhamdulillah, right? But the most important thing is in communication. Definitely, if you are in crisis communication, you will learn so many things. But at the same time, there are things that are not there. But the most important thing is that in the message is not really what is stated there, but what you really mean it. Because I do not have any text. I don't have the answer to all this question. They mean well, but actually they were not really sympathetic to me, right? But that is the only thing. Just tell them, and then you really mean it. And alhamdulillah, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it helped. At the same time, there are other things. During the time of COVID, we set up a temporary, what we call a podcast, right? Because every time you have to announce to students to have an engagement session with students, because you have to engage them. If, let's say, the MCO, MCO, you understand MCO, right? PKP. If it is short, right? 1 week is okay, right? But the whole duration of PKP is actually close to 100 days, right? So you have to manage them, because first they want to go home. You tell them cannot go home. Okay, right? Then next question they're going to ask, when are we going to go home, right? So that's why you have to engage them in constant communication. When the first MCO is about to expire, you have to engage them. Tell them the first is about to expire, but the government believe that it's not yet safe for you to travel. You have to engage them so that, that's what you do. And whenever problem happens, and then we realize the significance of that. And then that makeshift podcast has eventually become later on podcast become very important. Everybody come to this command center in order to do podcasts. So, but definitely communication is very, very important. I'm not a specialist in communication, but I happen to be, I don't know, at the right place or at the wrong place and the wrong time. But Allah assisted us because we have the good intention.
Thank you very much. Actually, Prof, every student has one significant lecture, like Khutbatul Wida, instances in Obama. Your lecture happened during the March 17th. And interestingly, I think every leader should have some degree of mastery in communication and also the psychology to understand to convey the message, understanding the psychology of the audience. Now we have three more questions from my preparation. Then I will open the floor for the audience also. Sure.
Maybe one or two is okay. Maybe give more time for Q. Okay.
The question next is during this time, we say the need is the mother of invention. Need is the mother of invention. So many universities develop the innovative solution during these difficult circumstances. What can you tell us this? Any strong senses happen because of any innovative solution?
As I mentioned earlier, MOOC, right, massive open online was there, but I don't think that there were many takers before. But after COVID-19, I think we have seen that has become almost permanent feature of all university in the world, right? And in Malaysia, until today, we still have. But at the place that I was with, there are many innovations that took place. Some, because in order to solve the problem, for example, let me give an example of, let's say, when, the decision for students to be allowed to go home during Eid al-Fitri has to be endorsed by the National Security Council, right? Majlis Keselamatan Negara. And the National Security Council would endorse provided that the full data is provided. Who is going home, where they are going to go, which area, is it the yellow zone, is it the green zone, is it the red zone, now it's coming back, right? You understand that the green zone means that it is safe zone. The red zone means that no. For example, Sabah and Sarawak was considered the red zone, yellow zone, in between, right? So they want to know the detail. For them, only if you are from green and yellow, you can go. You want to return. But for us, we have to get all this data, right? You see that, the problem with us is, we have been doing things in a silo manner. When we need data like this, then we realize, right, all the data that we have, because I was there, but like in IIUM, you have so many right? So I should spare IIUM, right? So the same thing over there also. But, which data that can? They have the, undergraduate, I don't remember what is the name of that data, but that data is not reliable. So we created a new app, right? That is called My Local, where students who want to go home, they have to updating where they are. If they are on campus, it's easy, right? Because mahalah data. If they are off campus, you have to understand, unlike IIUM, that university, there are more students off campus than on campus. Off campus, unlike us, we have PV6 and other things. Over there is actually, they are living in kampung, rumah kayu, right? Wooden house, right? So basically, data is very, very hard. So, but we have to insist that my local was introduced, and then everybody has to update, because without this data, MKN is not going to allow. So what happened that the command center has to operate 24 hours. And the moment when they are about to go home also, they say that I want to go home, but their data is not there. Then definitely by MKN rule, they are not allowed. So what happened is that the data need to be communicated with MKN and other things. So we have to come up with, say for example, app, for example, that capture that. In addition to that, the various initiatives helping the student, for example, in IIUM and other university, for example, for students who are in need, who don't have enough, for example, gadget. So in other universities, university in Malaysia, they have basically look at it and then find the funders and help the students who are in need. That is to provide them with this, what we call device. There is a laptop, right? And at the same time, there are many other things that was taking place during COVID-19, because mental health issue has been there. But COVID-19 revealed that the seriousness of mental health. Because why? They are there. They are basically, I don't know, I don't want to use the word stuck. They were stranded in the college for a good 100 days. And for people who have mental health challenge, this is the most difficult time, right? Nak balik kampung, right? So you have to ask Dr. Robi to go and help, right? So what happened is that we stationed our counselors at the hostel. And then, can you imagine 100 days in college? Anyone who was there during COVID-19 in college cannot do anything. You have to organize activities for them, right? Online activities, competition, that is part of the thing. Because why? Because I cannot imagine, because the college in that particular university is very cramped. Ours is actually bigger, right? So you have to manage the mental health. And definitely, just like as a university, for example, people with mental health will attempt to commit suicide or self-harming, things like that. So you have to basically, but COVID-19 reveal. Because why? Because I think that one of the most challenging thing is mental health. You put them 100 days, you cannot go home, stay and stuck in Mahala for 100 days, and the condition in Mahala also. So that is another thing. So possibly COVID-19 make us realize that we need to pay more attention in managing mental health. And part of the report that we have, actually, we have to include the mental health issue, and then what the initiative that we have done in order to manage the mental health issues.
Okay, thank you very much. We're entering to the last question. As you rightly mentioned, often it is said that crises do not create weakness. Rather, crisis reveal the weakness we have. As and mental health now, people are saying we are living in the pandemic of this mental health matters. So the last question, perhaps you can briefly say some important lessons learned about balancing the institutional continuity, academic quality, and the well-being of the students.
My portfolio was student development and alumni, right? And the thing is, people were doing things in silo, right? Sometimes you ask other universities, right? The academic will be defending his own turf, the student development will be defending, and the research, right? So what happened with COVID-19, that everyone have to work together, right? While we want to ensure the learning is taking place, we have to take other things into consideration. Mental health and also the accessibility. It is nice on paper, that we say that everyone can have class online, but you have to go deeper to survey, for example, the things like we don't think about before, right? Whether the area of Tunjang, what is the internet connection? You need to have that information, right? And then we need to see how many of our people, our students are from that area to that extent, right? So meaning that it's not enough say that the class is going to be online. And in fact, part of the initiative, the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Academic, now the Vice Chancellor in University of Malaya, actually provided, I think that I don't remember, some kind of subsidy for students to go online. They will be given like 60 or 100 ringgit to top up, right? That is the initial one, right? So meaning that in order to solve the problem, it's not just to say that, online learning, but to go to that level, surveying, for example, the accessibility, connectivity of internet, and to understand deeper issues. Students from B40, for example, what type of challenge that they are facing, the lack of device, the family issue, broken families. These are the kind of things that we have to take into consideration. The good thing is that when COVID-19 happened, I think that everybody worked together, whether it is student development, because student development is the one that is championing student welfare. But when COVID-19 happened, everybody is on the same boat, right? Looking at the welfare of the student. At the same time, research also, right? Maybe research has some problems, because why? In the university that I was with, they have to do a lot of field research. What do you mean by field research? Field research is, I will have hard time translating this, right? Coral, right? Batu karang. Yeah. So coral thrives when their environment is uninterrupted. Can you imagine 100 days uninterrupted? Coral thrive. And I don't know, I'm not a scientist, oceanography or whatever it is. They say that as a result of that, you can see, the light that is coming, that show that. And if you are an expert in that area, that happened, they say, one in blue moon. So oceanographer, they have to take the opportunity to go and dive and snap that picture, because that one does not happen often, right? So luckily, I'm not a scientist, but I become a diver. Because why? Because you are there, but maybe just past diver, not an expert one, right? They capture, and they have to get permission from the authority, because that does not happen often, right? So they snap that picture of the coral, right? The coral is, something that is living, and that picture is very rare. And that picture was presented to Sultan Tuanku Mizan. Tuanku Mizan was impressed, because that picture is very difficult to be captured. So that is another good thing, right? About COVID-19, that I think that they were amazed after getting the permission. So everybody worked together, including Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research. We discussed everything in the command center, try to facilitate, because whatever that we're going to do is we need to collaborate, because whatever happened, let's say, if they caught COVID, it's going to affect everyone, right? So that is the good thing, that during the bad time, during the crisis, everybody worked together, the spirit of unity and ukhuwah, in order to solve the problem. And also, I think that I'm doing it because I think this is Allah's plan, right? It's not that I want to be there. Wallahi, I don't want to be there. I did not want to go there. And all this while, I remember when I enrolled, the first time I came, maybe they were thinking that this is a special branch, because the VC was suspended, right? And then only then after that, they warm up to me. And then it turned out, oh, this one is not really a bad guy, right? And maybe that is the real ta'aruf that they have with me. Yeah. The COVID-19, because my boss are not there, they said, Hafiz, please help. Every time whenever there is COVID-19, I have to be there, and that is my job. So I think that there are many lessons that we can learn from it. Allahu a'lam bissawab.
Jazakallah khairan. Let me open the floor for the audience to ask any questions, inshallah. As Prof mentioned, we find the silver linings in the dark clouds. So the COVID-19 was tough, but it has taught us several important lessons. Please introduce briefly your background, name, background, and straightforward question, inshallah.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Salam.
My name is Abdulrahman Safi, a PhD candidate in Islamic finance and banking. A little bit, like I have to take 1 minute because this course was very important for us, and having Islamic basics in leadership, which as mentioned throughout these 12 sessions, starting from Quran Kareem, إن الله يأمركم أن تؤدوا الأمانات إلى أهلها وإذا حكمتم بين الناس أن تحكموا بالعدل. In the hadith also, كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. Prof, you have mentioned about the crisis and your own experiences in this journey that you have went through. And you have mentioned about the integrity, engagement, and communication skills. I would divide the crisis into two: the soft crisis and the hard crisis. Some of the countries are going through hard crisis that we are witnessing these days. As a young generation that we participated in this course, and I would very appreciate the organizer for organizing such courses. We are going to be someday responsible for something. As in the Quran said, trust in adl is the core basis of the leadership. Some of the leaders we can say nowadays, they are getting command from non-Muslims, and they're doing things on their own Islamic countries or lands. You are advised to a young generation who are going to be, inshallah, someday a good leader Islamically, and following the values of Islam, trust in adal and justice. What would be your advice to us based on the element that you have mentioned, integrity and communication skills, with the supreme power, the superpower in this world for some countries? We are witnessing this fermented in Muslim Muslim disunity. To apply those integrities that you have mentioned, how to do that and advise for the next generation. So your experience will be helpful, inshallah. Thank you so much.
We take question first. Thank you so much, brother, for that very important question, the soft and hard crisis, right? And if you go back to one of the hadiths that you mentioned, that kullukum ra'in, right? So this is something that is very important. And during COVID-19 also, I cited this hadith, and I cited author from the US, Robin Sharma, who talk about leader who have no title. So in the context of, let's say, countries where the official leader, the political leader influenced by superpower, right? So again, go back to the notion of leadership itself, right? Leadership is definitely the one that is in control of the power position in the country can affect wider changes in the country. But at the same time, based on the hadith that kullukum ra'in, so what happened with academic? Academic will also be doing their job to bring about the positive message. For example, if you are engaged with the youth, with the student, that is the kind of message that you want to bring about. Because unfortunately, in some part of the Muslim world, I'm sorry to use the words that Almarhum Prof mentioned, the corruption and hypocrisy is a problem, right? So what happened is that in this case, to try and reform them, it depends on them whether they are receptive to that change or not, right? But at the same time, we can work within our own capacity. If we are the lecturers or if we are thought leaders through writings. Today, part of the good thing is that the traditional power of leaders has more or less been democratized. For example, the power of social media, right? Sometimes social media, so-called influencer, can be, what you can do is you can be the good one, right? Through, let's say, whatever platform, to bring about the message that will reach out wide audience, to know that the challenges that they are facing, for example, to influence the thought process through social media. Because ultimately, I don't really know depend on what the system is. If there is a democratic process for someone that is new to participate, maybe that is also difficult, right? What we can do is try to work within what is achievable, what is within our realm. That is not to leave this to the official leaders, because ultimately we are the leaders, right? But we have to look at the spheres, and with today, I think that we have more avenue or platform in order to influence the masses. Allah.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is Malik Said. I'm PhD scholar in ISTEC IIUM. First of all, I'm very thankful that we have got that opportunity, that we have learned a lot. I have been in the educational leadership and went through all different things, like the way you had mentioned about COVID-19. And this had reminded me many of the things which we have done in our capacity. I don't know why this thing is coming in my mind, that type of crisis which came earlier, that type of crisis is not just the end. That is, I think, that is the beginning, and the bigger crisis will come in future. Because the place where you were and the way you had handled all those things in your capacity, and especially the way you have mentioned, this was the first time we were not having any precedent before, that we can take examples from there, we can learn from there, and then we can take the decisions. That was the first time you were encountering, everyone was encountering such situation before. That was not, there were no such examples. My little thing is like, because you were in the place where you have taken so many decisions, like mobilizing students, taking decisions regarding the education, delivering everything. That was a huge set of things you have learned through those all. My simple one question is, like, I will make it a little bit more shorter. If I would ask you as a student, like as a leader, if anything would happen again, so for the future leaders, how you can give them, like, if I would ask you 3 to 5 measures that when you, because at that time you have learned, you have taken so many experiences, then you have taken some decision, then you maybe taken it back. But now you have learned a lot. So through your experience, how you would guide the future leaders at that situation, how 4, 3 or 5 decisions we can take in the beginning, so that we can come up to cater such crisis. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is very important. As I mentioned earlier, that depending on university, but many universities, their blueprint on crisis management basically was very vague, or in many universities they do not have a clear idea. But COVID-19 was a wake-up call. I believe that all strategic and transformation office in university pay attention to that. And then I remember that the strategic office that we have there, they mentioned that they only were imagining things, right? But after COVID-19, they have seen firsthand. The strategic and risk office, they have a very detailed things, what need to be done. That is, in terms of the readiness, is the institutional, right? The Office of Strategy, Risk and Transformation, I believe that now they have a better plan how to cope with it. Because a lot of things actually people learn on the run. For example, having one command center, but that what was done at the ministry level, and that was also followed by other university. But now I believe that all the Office of Strategy and Risk have incorporated that into part of the institutional readiness in order to deal with the risk. And that is the good thing, because the strategy office was directly involved. They observed and then they incorporated in their plan. Secondly, is at the training level. Like in Malaysia, for instance, the top management of the university, they have to attend courses. Previously, less emphasis was given, even though I think crisis management was there. But I attended some courses, maybe I did not have the opportunity to attend crisis. But now, I believe that the training has incorporated crisis management has become very important. Previously, 2019, 2020, I think that the emphasis more on the strategic planning. What are you going to do in order to achieve this objective? But less anticipation about, the crisis that will thwart, the whole thing. I believe that at the ACAP, the National Academy of Higher Educational Training, also they have addressed that, so that people will become more ready in terms of preparedness to deal with the crisis. And I believe that more courses has been webinar on the crisis management. At individual level, because as I mentioned, I'm a historian, I can share my own experience, but definitely some of the thing that is there as a non-expert, the importance of having, one source, one command center, and then one, people receive message from one institution. These are the things that are very important, very integral. I believe that the strategic and transformation office in respective university have incorporated this to become an integral part of the institutional response. There is also the response that I got from the one that is in charge of the transformation. So my advice is just like what I shared, right? The important, because in the lack of precedent, what happened is that just follow the general advice of Islam. What Islam tells us is shura, getting together, asking experts from various fields. These are the kind of things that I believe that when the strategic planners, transformation leader come up, they will design this. This really matters. And also, when you want to communicate, you need to communicate strategically from one source. Otherwise, you are going to confuse people, especially during the time crisis. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum, Prof. I'm Ismail. And thank you so much for this course and for your insightful sharing with us. As I know that Malaysia has its NDMA authority, National Disaster Management Authority Council, as well. And also Red Crescent and Red Cross, they are working internationally. And if people don't know, Red Crescent is working in Malaysia. Whatever you're talking about previously related to the COVID, I'm one of the disaster management working with UN agencies. So might be people remember that in 2005 we have a disaster, earthquake, and it's a huge disaster. After that, our government decided to establish and form that in 2007 National Disaster Management Authority. Later, we incorporate with UN agencies because they are much more equipped with knowledge and practical trainings. So now, Red Crescent, UN, Disaster Management Authority, and government. And also we have civil defense. These are the major institutions. They incorporate with each other, and we are do trainings with school and college and university levels for crisis management and even for that kind of uncertain situations. We call it in leadership that spontaneous leadership. If our students having come up and they have the training like first aid and like these kind of health crisis, because I was working with that earthquake during that. So these all kind of things like sanitization, wearing a mask, having a distance, we learned in 2006. And when COVID-19 came, we already in practice and we just ensure our student. I want to just ask this, during this course, SISCO, I just felt, although it's really good, it's really having a huge knowledge-wise, I just have little bit a gap of practical knowledge, little bit like this. If you incorporate like this kind of practical training in this, I think you are also thinking, because in your whole talk, I was just realized this, that you had that experience, but that 1 or 2 days training from Red Crescent you have, because they are already mentioning, I don't know what is the volunteerism in Malaysia, that they registered their volunteers with the Red Crescent or not, but in Pakistan we are registered. So, and we encourage our students that they should register in college level and they should train themselves with the life skills. So I just feel that during this, all the lectures are very good, very excellent, but just a little bit practice that we need in workshop, during workshop, through any kind of mock situations, and to understand the spontaneous leadership. Thank you so much, Prof. If you have that kind of any course in future, I will be part of that.
Thank you. That is very good thing. And also I should mention, when we collaborate, including the various agency, Red Crescent, Ministry of Health, the civil aviation, that's when we learn all these things, right? The one that the sister mentioned, they are more prepared and more ready. And in regular time, it is, I don't think that anybody from IIUM can demand the, let's say, the state disaster management committee to meet with you, right? But what happened is that during the time of crisis, in fact, I requested that, because let me give an example that the state that is categorized as red was Sarawak, right? A group of students from Sarawak, or about 100 of them, are returning. And that alerted, created some kind of anxiousness, anxiety at the state level. So what happened, I contacted the state emergency response team. I got together with all this, including, they call here Bulan Sabit Merah, is the same thing, right? Crescent, and Department of Kementerian Kesihatan, Ministry of Health, Civil Aviation, Police, and we met, I don't remember exactly, but it's one of the state infrastructure, and they are the one who understand this, because before, let's say, test kit become available, right? Test kit become available later, right? During the initial stage, March, April, I don't think that it was available yet. And it was during this meeting that I learned first time that there is a COVID test, because this is, only expert know. The Department of Health and Red Crescent understand that how do we manage the risk is when they arrive in the airport, before they go back, they go and enter campus, you screen them by doing this test, right? Test kit. And test, there are 2 types, right? One, which you can get the result immediately. What happened is that Ministry of Health at the state level agreed to cover that. It was expensive, but they covered that. And definitely the involvement with some of the agencies will basically, they will provide more information. And they are more accustomed to, how to manage disaster, how to manage issues like this, earthquake, flood, and other thing. That might be, suggestion for the organizer.